So my very first yoga teacher training was in Rishikesh in the foothills of the Himalayas with AYM, the Association for Yoga and Meditation. It was with my teacher Mahesh Ji. He was the first person that introduced me to yoga, and back then he was very young. Now he has 2 kids and he's all gray and everyone calls him like Guruji now, but it's very funny to see his transformation in his yoga journey as well. My second yoga teacher training, I went with my best friend. We went back to the same school. I did my 300 hour, which is called yoga therapy, and you learn more about prenatal, people that have scoliosis, more mental health issues, and a little bit deeper besides just the asana practice of yoga, which in your 200 hours, very much learning Ashtanga and meditation and the fundamentals of a basic physical practice. But as you get deeper, it goes a little more into the spiritual aspect of indulging deeper in your meditation, having more of a solid self-practice. So in order to take your 300 hour, you had to be teaching yoga for at least 2 years already. And everyone in the class either ran a studio or they had some sort of purpose for being there to evolve their practice beyond just being a yoga teacher. So they either wanted a private practice or prenatal, working with women or working with people with depression or psychological issues. I just kind of took it because my best friend wanted to do her teacher training, and I'm just always down for India. The third one I did was Mysore. Mysore is famous for Ashtanga. It's where Pattabhi Jois was. It's pretty much the only thing to do there is do yoga and eat vegan food. Everyone goes to bed at pretty much 5 p.m. You wake up at 3 a.m. You'll practice for maybe 2 hours and then again in the afternoon. And there's a very famous school there, which is ran by Pattabhi Jois's son right now, I believe. And that was a very, very intense physical practice. I left that one. I didn't complete it because I realized that a lot of what I was learning, I had already learned in my 200 and 300. And so I kind of dipped a week early and I went to Sri Lanka just to I just went to Sri Lanka. It was kind of like a crazy decision. But the physical practice in Ashtanga and in Mysore, I would really love to go back and maybe go a little deeper, not to do teacher training. When you have your 200 hour in teacher training, you don't really need to do more teacher trainings officially. I would just suggest you go to a teacher you admire or you just want to learn from, because it's the same anatomy, it's the same mantras, it's the same meditation class, it's all the same. The only difference is the depth of your physical practice and what you're learning. And so the 4th time I went back, that's exactly what I did. I went to Goa, which I'd been there before, and there was a teacher I really loved that taught Iyengar. And it was this super small, little shack of a studio where there's just yoga mats and cement and these weird bamboo things holding up the walls. But his way of teaching was just so stern and to the point. With Iyengar, that's very much the way it is taught. There's a lot of people that have learned from BKS Iyengar, and their classes are always super disciplined because it's so much about alignment and how the body is. Everything from the tip of your pinky finger to the end of your hair, you are present and you are aware, and you hold the posture for 3 to 10 minutes. But by holding it for that long, you really start to learn and master the body and master the asana, and that's a reflection that goes into more aspects of your life. So learning to master the mind, master your time, master your relationships. But when I went to Goa for the last time, I actually left my teacher because, I don't know, it was just a weird vibe. I admired him the first time I went there, but with a lot of teachers, I think ego can so easily get in the way. And he had become a bit of a different teacher, which is more focused on money and the business aspect and just getting lots of students to come through the door. But there was another person called Balu who taught an Ashtanga sequence just down the street. And he didn't speak a lick of English except for the words that you needed to say in an Ashtanga practice, such as inhale, exhale, 1, 2, 3. And his classes were so intense. He had probably 150 different poses just to stretch your wrist, and 150 different poses just to stretch like your hamstrings, and everything was so in depth. And even though there was the language barrier of what to say, the way he taught with his body and demonstration and with having people as props, it was a great learning experience as a teacher to see that you don't always need to have the language to communicate, and sometimes it's just the energy you bring about with your class. And that was the last, I guess, teacher training officially that I did. I was meaning to go back every year to learn, but then I opened Oblong, and essentially you cannot just leave for a month to go to India, although I would like to go back soon. And yeah. What was the other part? Why it's different. So I would go to India to learn my teacher training. First of all, it's way cheaper. I would pay $1,500 for 1 month for my teacher training certificate, all accommodation, all my food, besides my flight, where if I were to do that here in Toronto, it probably costs about $3,000, and it can take you up to a year where you're doing it every other weekend. And to be honest, when it comes to yoga, it's such a practice where you have to be fully in it day after day, night after night, like eat, sleep, and breathe it so that you can feel it inside. So when you're teaching it to your students, it's not trying to remember what you did last Saturday. It's just speaking from that shift that happened inside your body, from waking up day after day to meditate, to practice, to eat the food, to sing the songs, you know? It's very more rich and genuine. And I feel if you're going to go in the yogic line, like if that's your journey or your calling, why would you not go straight to the source with people that have learned from the masters that have been living and breathing it from decade and generation after generation? It's just a much more genuine experience. And India in itself is just a whole learning curve on its own. A lot of patience and practice, which I think is very important when it comes to your yoga journey and moving forward as a teacher. You know, you need patience. Students are tricky.